I read your comments on my clan boss videos for the new fusion champion Zen Ogre Blade Master, and a lot of you asked for an Emic team with the Blade Master. See how she did. So this is the team that I'm going to present for you guys. It is an Ultra Nightmare only team. It's not a perfect speed tune, but I do have this particular comp linked down below in the description of this video, as well as a link to a team that I base this off of, right? But it is pretty interesting. It's interesting to see Zen Ogre in these clan boss teams because she's so good and yet a little bit flawed too. Welcome, I'm the Deadwoodjedi. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. We are on the test server today looking at the fusion, Zen Ogre Blade Master. She's awesome. I really do like her a lot, but there is an interesting thing about her kit that kind of bugs me. At the same time, she's kind of really good and kind of unique in the role that she plays. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how this works for us. But I'm excited to kind of show you guys this tune because I think there's a lot of potential into it. And I kind of actually want to play around some more with the Blade Master and see, can't really optimize this a little bit better because what are we doing? We're bringing in Emic and we're going to use a speed tune around Emic and we're going to use Blade Master as the stun target. And it actually works. Now, as always with stun targeting, we always have to remember affinity matters. Blade Master is definitely a blue affinity champion. So this is not a team that's going to work against Spirit Affinity, right? The green affinity is not going to target her. So we have to keep that in mind. And so it's probably not a great long-term solution, but if you only hit Void, this could work for you. You can always just bring her in as a DPS champion. You don't have to use her passive ability, but I really want to use the totality of her kit. And so that's what we're doing today. And it's very interesting. Now, just real quick, this whole build is really based around her passive ability, right? There's two factors to it. One is the second part, the active effect, where it prevents her death and brings her to 1 HP and then heals her 50%. That is an awesome skill, but it is limited by the cooldown of 4 turns. It is limited because we have to make sure that when she's about to die, for that to trigger, and we need that to trigger on the stun itself, not before that. The couple things we have to kind of keep in mind here. The other part is the passive effect, which basically doubles our damage as long as decreased defense is on the field and she has under 50% health. That is an incredibly good skill and makes her one of the better damage dealers for clan boss. So there's a lot to like about this kit, but as I said, both tricky, right? Not only do we have the active effect with the cooldown, and by the way, that 4-turn cooldown, yeah, I know we're bringing in Emic, but his ability doesn't actually cool it down. It is 4 turns. There's no going down to 3 no matter who you bring in. That's definitely a negative, and I think that's just a factor of passive abilities in general, which is, I don't know, it's frustrating, but I mean, I don't think it's bad. I think it gives it a little bit of balance, but that's something you have to kind of keep in mind and makes it a little bit more difficult to build a tune around it. The other part, though, is the passive effect, right? That dropping defense, dropping her HP down so she hits harder. Well, she has a leech on her A3 skill, which is very, very frustrating because inevitably it's going to land. I've done this run even with her at 120 accuracy on Ultra Nightmare. This is half of what you need. Still lands it. Still lands it often enough to really ruin your run. So here's my thinking on this. One, if you want to use her as that stun target, right, you really can't utilize the leech, not in an unkillable comp like this. So I've had to turn off all her skills except for her A1 ability. The good part about doing that is we can put accuracy on her then and utilize her weaken. That's a really nice little debuff to bring in. She still has triple hits on that, so Giant Slayer is still amazing. We're still going to do crazy good damage with her skill because each of those hits, when fully maximized, can do about 100,000 damage. A lot of damage. So I really like her. It does take a little bit for this tune to fall in the sync, but if we set it up right, if we prepare it right, we can run it full auto. There is a couple other things that we have to kind of keep in mind with this team. Because we're using Emic here, and because we want to make sure her passive ability doesn't proc too soon, one of the things we want to make sure is that she doesn't get too low health too soon, right? That she's protected all the time when it's happening. And it can be a little bit tricky, specifically on turn 4 when running this comp. There's one turn where she's not protected, and if she goes down too low, that passive will proc too early and everything gets messed up. One of the ways to avoid this is by using Emic's A2 ability here with the shield. Now we really only need it for that one attack. But after that, because after that, we're going to be in sync. We're protected by the unkillable. And an interesting thing I found with her passive is it doesn't actually activate even if we take too much damage and we have unkillable on ourselves. It only activates when she's literally going to be killed by a hit, on a fatal hit. I haven't always seen this be the case with passive abilities before. So I don't know if this is a change. I don't know if this might actually be a bug. But right now, when I'm testing it on the test server, and admittedly, it's been a little buggy. So, we got to kind of keep an eye on whether this is consistent or not. But in my experiment so far, when she has unkillable on herself and she goes down to 0 HP, or 1 HP, I should say, the passive doesn't activate, which I think is really, really good. It makes it a lot easier to build teams around her. I still want to test it further just to make sure that that is the case. But so far, from what I can tell, that does seem to be the case here. The one thing we want to try to do is make sure we have decreased defense all the time. So I've got Bloodfeather in here. I've got Delver in here. Two champions I never bring in a clan boss, but I thought would be fun to kind of get an example and show. Delver is 6-star blessing with Crushing Rend, just FYI. So she does a lot of damage. That's probably a big part of it, ignoring some defense there when she does it. We've got Doom Priest with the full cruelty as well. Just kind of, all these factors that we want to keep in mind. But the idea here is basically that Blade Singer is going to go on that 4-3 ratio because we can't cool down her passive ability. And to take the stun, she does have to take 4 turns for every 3 the clan boss does. And by doing that, we're going to be in good shape. The negative is I cannot use her A3. If I could time the A3 properly, then I could probably be able to use it even with Leech landing occasionally. The issue really becomes that because all our skills are on 3-turn cooldowns, and because of the cooldown reduction from Emic, there's no way to really time those skills out perfectly. So this is the team. We're going to run it. We're going to jump in, run it, see how we do. I'm optimistic. I don't know how well this is going to do, but my testing so far seemed pretty successful with a couple different variations on this. So this is the one I want to show you guys, and let's see how we do. All right, jumping in the run. It is a full auto team here. Pretty simple to run. One of the tricks, obviously, with these Emic teams, and I've covered this before, is when he uses his cooldown, it kind of triggers when certain skills happen, right? And that can be a little bit problematic in the figuring out the timing of stuff, right? It can just make things a little bit more difficult than they need to be, right? But yeah, this is gonna be. I really like Delver. The decreased defense is a 75% chance to land. It's not 100, which is frustrating, just because it's not always going to extend. So there are going to be some times when we're out of decreased defense, which obviously lowers our damage numbers. So it's not ideal, right? But I wanted to bring her in and see what she does. And she is hitting really hard, though. I think we're going to have a really fun time watching not only what Zen Ogre does, but what Delver does and what Bloodfeather does. I think they both do incredible damage, actually, or all 3 of them. But it's going to be really interesting to watch. But as you can see, we're taking the stun, mostly because Zen Ogre is in the lead. She is the only one without Life Drink as well. So that means she's not healing up from her raw damage attacks. Only healing she is getting is from our Doom Priest here. Really the only thing. And I have Doom Priest in just a cleanse. You could easily use a debuff block champion as well. And because Zen Ogre is taking a 4-turn, she has a 4-turn cooldown. Which I don't believe I don't think her passive is affected by the stun either. I think it just happened. So I believe you could run her and let her take the stun and she'd still work. Haven't tested that though. That is probably something I should test just to make sure. But in the meantime, I don't know that you need a cleanser or block debuff champion for this to work, but you can definitely use either of those, approaches with this. The great part though is that, because we're getting so many turns, we're actually able to do pretty decent damage along the way. And you can see she's super low health. Everybody else heals up though. And so she still becomes the preferred stun target by being such low health as she is right now. The shield's not really going to be, affecting us. We got through the problematic area in those first couple turns. And so now she's doing, look at that, 100,000, 127, 130,000 per attack with that A1. Pretty good numbers, I would say. And so can do a lot of damage. And there you see the passive activate. He takes a stun, doesn't die, and heals up to 50% HP. Exactly what we want from her, right? That is exactly the thing that we want, and it's going to maximize the damage that we can get out of her and keep our team rucking all the way through this, which I love. One thing I did have to do, most of my champions, whether it's Bloodfeather or Emic or Delver, they're all taking attacks before the stun. The only champion who's not is Doom Priest, so I had to put one Immortal set, so she just gets a little bit more HP than our Zen Ogre before the stun. That's the only little twist I had to do to make this work, but after doing that, this is a perfectly sound team and should run for a full 50 turns here at this point. Yeah, should work really nicely. The only advice I would give is when you're building this champion for this kind of a role, you need to make sure she has enough defense and HP so she survives the first 2 rounds without going super low. That's the only thing, right? She needs to have the unkillable on herself when she goes down to 1 HP if it's on an AoE, so that the passive only triggers on the stun hit like it did right there. Anyway, let's take a look at the champions, how I built them, and we'll come back and see how this worked at the end here. All right, let's look at the champions we got here, how I built them. We've got obviously Zen Ogre Blade Master, 242 speed, 260 accuracy. These are the kind of things that we're looking for. Almost 300 crit damage, 4,700 attack though. That attack is really low. It's because we had to go with speed boots instead of attack boots. And that just really lowers the damage potential of this champion. One of the things that can really make her shine is if you can slow her down, build that attack up, it's going to do wonders. This is where, not only blessings, but also a great, what it called, faction guardians really comes into play. My faction guardians for the, for this faction, the Shinobi one, what's it called? Shadowkin Shinobi. The Shadowkin faction isn't full. And so that definitely takes a lot off the table for her damage wise. So keep that in mind. She will do better damage than I'm even being able to showcase her with. We also have Doom Priest. Doom Priest 187. She's in that cleanser role. We want to be like 186 to 189 speed for that. And that's pretty much her only role for this team. You will notice the Immortal gear. I needed that because when she does her A2, which just places an increased attack buff, not an attack skill, she doesn't get any extra healing. And because of that, sometimes she'll end up with less HP than Blade Master. I just need a little bit of healing, so one Immortal set did the trick there. Then, of course, we have Delver. 6-star Blessing with Crushing Rend means she's ignoring a lot of defense, which means her damage is going to skyrocket as a result. Even with that, though, I think I built her pretty good. 300 crit damage, 260 accuracy, and 5,600 attack. Not too bad. 178 speed. I need my DPS, my other 2 DPS, between that 172, 178 speed range. Speaking of the other DPS, we've got Bloodfeather here, who is going at that 172 spot. If I was going to bring in a block debuff champion, it would go in this slot right here. Now, him I have built really stacked out. 7,200 attack. I don't know how, but I was able to get a lot of attack on, 260 crit damage, 260 accuracy. And a lot of it has to do with her skills. They all have a 30% crit rate bonus to them, which means it's a lot easier to build her up, and I think you can see the damage it shows. And then very last, of course, we have Emic. Emic I do have in some healing gear, and just to make sure, again, it's not a very big attack champion. I want to make sure, because he has so much HP, there's no question that he's going to have more than the Blade Master when it comes to taking the stun, and because of that, this works really nice. That 248 speed is really the key. Otherwise, it's just about stacking HP and trying to have as much, crit rate and crit damage as you can. I mean, 90 million is not bad. That's a one key. Definitely, that's a one key. Now, unfortunately, yeah, we're damage wise. Well, Blade Master had 17 million, Delver 22, Bloodfeather 27. Look, I know this is a video about Blade Master Zen Ogre, and I thought she did very well. I think 17 million is actually a pretty darn good result for this type of a team, especially considering the fact we didn't keep decreased defense up for the full fight. Every time we did, she was doing between 100 and 130,000 on each hit of that A1, which is a triple hit ability. That means we're talking somewhere between 300 and 400,000 damage every single attack. That's a good amount of damage, right? I mean, a very good amount of damage. The negative, one, it takes a little bit of time to ramp up to it. And two, we have to have decreased defense out there to really make that fly. It also really helped when we had increased attack as well from Doom Priest versus not having that. That definitely upped our damage numbers also. So those are two things that we really kind of want on her to really maximize her damage. And they might be a little inconsistent for you and your team to have on. That's the real drawback with her. So there's a lot of kind of prerequisites to make her shine, but she does shine for sure. Also, the only champion without any blessings, that makes a huge difference as far as the damage goes. Not only can that add to your attack, your crit damage, but the blessings themselves do really good stuff. As exemplified by Delver, who was hitting for like 400k a pop with her crushing rend. She did have on toxic as well, definitely added a little bit to her damage, but that was nuts. But I think the most impressive damage out of all of this, surprisingly, was Bloodfeather, who I don't think I've ever used in a team, pulling over 800,000 damage on some of her A3 hits, which is just insane to me, but definitely doing really good work. So that's somebody the feather I will keep in the back of my cap. Proud of that. Not proud of that at all. But yeah, she was really good. The whole team I thought did really well, and it shows how you can utilize Blade Master in your teams. And again, as a stun target, it's a little specific, but it is definitely possible. So overall, what do we think? I mean, I really enjoyed this team. I thought it was a really kind of fun team to put together. You know, it isn't a super fast team. We have two champions going relatively fast and a 4-3 ratio in Emic and the Blade Master, but that's it. Everybody else is at a pretty slow speed, so that makes it very doable. Now, this particular tune, and like I said, I have this link down below in the description. It's not exactly super. It's really only good for Ultra Nightmare, right? It's only good for Ultra Nightmare, but it's real easy. You can sub out the slow spot for a debuff blocker. That will work really nice. You can definitely put your cleanser in the Doom Priest role. There's definitely options as far as approaches to this. You can even have the Blade Master take the stun and just tank it. I'm pretty sure that's not going to affect the cooldown of the passive ability. So there's a lot of flexibility as far as like, how do you want to go about this? What's going to be the best approach? There's lots of ways you can do that. And I think be really successful with it, even if it is Ultra Nightmare only. There is always, the option too of just bringing somebody, a more traditional block damage champion or like a Warcaster or somebody into that Blade Master role. And you can, slow her down and just have her on a 1-1 ratio. That's always a realistic possibility too. So very good champion. I think this is really interesting to kind of watch. I'm trying to think if there's any other teams I really feel like she would shine in that's worth bringing out to kind of show something that we really haven't seen yet. I think any other really interesting tunes are going to involve using her A2 with the increased speed and increased turn meter boost. A very tricky skill to use because of the turn meter boost she gives herself. So I'm not even sure that that's something that's going to be able to be reliably speed tuned. There's issues with it. When she weak hits, she doesn't get the turn meter boost. So in a lot of ways, kind of like hard to speed tune, like an Archmage helmet, right? It kind of falls in a similar category, except it's all on her. It's all in the same skill. So it's a little trickier to use her in Clan Boss than other champions because of that. So it's not a bad ability. I think it works really well in dungeons. In fact, it's just for something like Clan Boss, so definitely a little bit trickier to speed tune and make work for you. So something I will be looking at, but I've been playing around with it already. Haven't been able to really find anything. If any of you find something, let me know. But yeah, if there's another tune you guys feel like is a really important showcase or shows something different from the other two teams I've shown before and this one right here, let me know and I'd be happy to look at it. But I think the biggest issue is if you want to maximize your damage, you can't have Leech, which really kind of takes out Deacon Armstrong. takes out her A3 ability. But if you really want to utilize her abilities, then you're not going to maximize her damage. So it's one or the other. Oh, I do want to do a traditional team with her. So that will be upcoming at some point in the next week or so. I just want to be able to show you guys all the different possibilities once you get her from this fusion. Anyway, I hope the fusion is going well for you guys. We are doing that free-to-play challenge from Hades, so make sure to check that out. This should be a lot of fun, actually. I'm really looking forward to doing that with my team. And yeah, that's all we got, guys. So until next we meet on the Deadwood Jedi.